1 in every 5 Americans lives in a rural area. We define rural as communities of 2,500 people or less. These are the places that have historically fed and powered our nation. They are important to our economy. They have a big place in our culture and history and are playing an important role in our politics.
It's a lifestyle, and a lot of Mainers like to live in rural areas. Over 60% of Maine's population live in rural areas, and in percentage terms, that is a higher number than any other state in the country.
Rural communities are oftentimes lagging behind more populated areas when it comes to educational attainment. They see higher rates of unemployment and poverty. And the question becomes, are rural communities being left behind? Are we doing what we can to serve rural communities and these unique challenges? And are these challenges factored into our policy, program design, and implementation work when we're trying to address these issues? The cost of energy is one of those unique challenges faced by rural areas. In fact, in the U.S., rural residents pay a higher percentage of their income towards energy costs than residents of more populated parts of the country. We define this as energy burden, and we see that in rural areas, it's not uncommon for a household to pay 6%, 9%, or even double digits of their annual income towards energy costs.
When you think about why people can't stay warm in their own home, then you start talking about the rural efficiency gap. The gap is, since we know how to do this and we can do it for anybody really in any building, we can make it tighter and we can make warmth cheaper, why isn't everybody there already?
When I think about what is the rural energy efficiency gap, the first thing I think of is a mountain of opportunity for the energy savings and all of the other benefits that come along with energy efficiency improvements.
Maine in general is challenged. We are the most dependent state on heating oil. If you add propane and kerosene to that, then almost 3/4 of Maine uses a delivered fuel.
Energy efficiency in the Upper Valley is challenging. We have some of the oldest housing stock in the nation, particularly in our more rural communities. And we are heating primarily with heating oil and cordwood because we don't have natural gas infrastructure. So these communities are paying a lot for their heating. They are sending a lot of their heating out through cracks and gaps in their insulation and their homes, and they don't have good access to contractors who can help them resolve those efficiency issues.
Another limiting factor inhibiting us from capitalizing on that abundant opportunity to save energy through efficiency is that there are a lot of competing needs. The rural communities that we're talking about have a lot of other issues or challenges, and sometimes energy efficiency just doesn't make the cut.
The focus in many communities and many homes is on basic needs. The concept of energy efficiency seems like a couple levels above that putting food on the table and keeping the house warm for the next week.
It's a perfect storm of energy problems. We have the people with the least income living in houses that they can't afford to remodel or insulate, paying for really expensive fuel. The people with the least disposable income are paying the highest amount per gallon to heat some of the leakiest buildings on Earth. So their heating regime, as you might say, is like the worst one, and they have the least money to spend on it.
Up here, we really do pride ourselves on being tough, and I've been involved with people who have furnace wars, and what a furnace war is when you are the last person to actually have to turn on your furnace to heat your home. And it is a source of pride. And the first person who caves and said, "Oh man, I had to turn it on last night, I was too cold," it's like they're kind of not as hardy as they could be.
Some of it is like the stigma of saying I'm cold. People don't exactly volunteer to tell you that their house is really cold, or in order to stay warm they don't eat well or they don't eat enough. In America, I guess people feel that they should be able to do all those things and more, but a lot of people really can't.
You'd be surprised at how many of these houses, no matter how much someone chooses to spend, heating it, just simply can't become comfortable to them. And that's, those comfort projects, honestly, are the ones that I remember in the back of my head, where you have families wearing sweatshirts and sweatpants, all sleeping in the same bed with multiple blankets, no matter how high they turn the heat on, and just completely, changing someone's day-to-day life.
I'm on the phone pretty frequently with constituents who don't really know where to turn. They're calling our office. The first question I ask the constituent is, do they have internet access? And most of the times the answer I get is no, which means the energy efficiency programs and information is not available to them because it's all marketed online.
It's really hard in a rural region like the Upper Valley to gain traction around weatherization. You can't see insulation in someone's walls when you're driving down the road. This is not something that we think about when we think about improving the value of our homes, and yet we all know what it feels like to be cold in the winter time.
It's a huge problem, but it's totally fixable. We know how to deal with it. Even the leakiest old crumbling house in New England can be dealt with affordably and reasonably.
We think rural matters. We don't want to leave these communities behind, and we think it's important that policy and program design and implementation initiatives are considering the unique needs of rural areas here in Maine and beyond.